helping one guy in particular, one coaching client, go from masturbating so much that he had to get surgery on his penis to being a 2-time national champion, girlfriend-having, awesome individual that's a brother and friend of mine today.
Right.
And he's the man. Shout out to him.
What's up, everybody? It's Vidal here. It's really weird hearing my name. But we're going to be having a conversation today about confidence. And it's going to be broken down in a way you've never thought about before. It's going to involve hypnosis and how you may be under hypnosis and you don't even know it. How do I know this? Well, I have my buddy and professional, legendary hypnotist with me today. And you're going to be learning some things you never thought were connected to confidence. So if you're a guy, probably, if you're struggling with confidence, if you're in situations where you notice you're feeling anxious at the thought of going to speak with someone in you or give a speech, or, you're in a certain social circle and you're like, why am I not one to speak up and tell the truth when there's an opposing opinion? I always just cower down and accept and go along, and you're like, man, I really wish I could just be who I am unapologetically. You're like, man, well, is that possible? Is that an option for me? It is most certainly an option for you, and you'll know exactly how after this conversation. So, as I mentioned, I'm here with one of my best friends, and lucky to know him as a legendary hypnotist. Actually, I prefer if you just tell the people, because I was going to explain all the things that goes into the legendariness, and at the risk of you like tooting your own horn, right? I'm going to take I'm asking him to toot his own horn here.
Maybe I'll do my best to counterbalance it with some cringe afterwards, just to be fair. I've had chronic brain injuries go away. I've had attachment styles be overcome, both avoidant and, what's the other one, insecure. I've had someone reach the goal of making $100,000 a month. I've had people quit smoking, people get laid, get girlfriends, and some other things that don't immediately come to mind. So that's quite the list of successes. But so why is that? I was personally trained by Dr. David Snyder, who is one of, if not the best hypnotist in the world for hypnotherapy and for applications. Generally speaking, the concept is getting conscious control over your other than conscious mind. Most people, they call it the subconscious mind, but in the Snyder language, it's other than conscious mind to describe just the sheer power, because sub sometimes implies beneath,
right,
which suggests that it's not as powerful,
right,
but it definitely is. And just like how we know with a lot of the protocols and exercises that you teach, when you bring what's other than conscious or subconscious to light into the conscious mind, the false assumptions or anything that's false or shouldn't be completely disappear. So those are some of the successes that I've had, but there's nothing special about me as an individual. It's the content that I was able to learn. So I wouldn't be able to accomplish these impressive sounding feats if it wasn't for mentors pouring into me, because I wouldn't be a fraction of who I am today if not for people pouring into me about things that they were subject matter experts in that I wasn't. So I remember when I was horrible at getting relationships with women. I remember when I could get them, but I was horrible at maintaining them with any kind of great degree of enjoyableness for me and the girl.
Right.
And that was something that you helped me with, which was the relationship maintenance and dramatically increasing the quality of the relationship. Right. So it was through your mentorship that I was upgraded in that way. And then through the mentorship of Dr. David Snyder, I was able to get skills that get people the results that they want, take the randomness out of their life when it comes to hypnosis. So that's the short version. And because of that, because I've had evidence of it, I've always been keen on reaching out to consultants to get the knowledge that they have to speed boost my development to get me from where I was to where I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll bounce back to you for a moment so we can go into the subject matter, but that's the brief intro on hypnosis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot to unpack, a lot of things we're going to go over. I know there are a lot of preconceived notions about what people think hypnosis is. And I made a claim earlier that you may be under hypnosis right now, but no.
We're all definitely under hypnosis.
But that's the thing. I don't think people think of hypnosis, the actual effects of it, and how whenever you're actually in a state where you're feeling unconfident, you're under hypnosis and you don't even realize it. But since you're the expert on it, I think it's useful for them to hear it from the underlying scientific product, like the underlying, we could call it the brain and body relationship, and what's actually happening when someone is under hypnosis, and so that they can start to connect, like, hold up, I thought hypnosis was this and that, but based on what he's describing, I am under hypnosis when I'm in an unconfident state, when I'm more or less under the pressures of someone else, right? And so we're gonna go into like confidence because we want to tie it to that. And so I'm curious, pre-hypnosis, all that, like a little bit of backstory. Some of you guys may already know that in my backstory, I struggled with social skills and confidence and all these things, and I went through a lot of different uncomfortable, embarrassing trainings in order to get the understanding that I have now. And I'm curious, in terms of your relationship with confidence, is it something that pre-hypnosis you already had? And how does hypnosis like tie into that?
Well, you helped me uncover a blind spot a while ago, which was that I did have this sort of unconditional positive regard for myself, where I thought that things were going to work out well for me. But a word that I think would be useful for the audience to be aware of is the word reference. So early in life, I only had poor references for my relationships with women.
What does reference mean?
A reference is like an example of an event or a memory that you then try to make meaning of in your mind. So I remember this time in middle school when I had a big crush on this girl, and other people thought the girl had a crush on me, but I sat next to her for the whole year and never displayed romantic intent because I was terrified of the idea of being rejected, and no part of me thought that she would possibly want me. So I actually did something weird, and I went for her friend that I thought would be easier because I liked her less, and the friend rejected me, saying that I was ugly and that I looked like a rat. So after hearing that, I was devastated, and I was like, that was my reference for the way that women were going to respond to me. So I carried that with me. I didn't give up hope, but I was very depressed and very afraid around the idea of my relationship with the opposite sex.
So is a reference like some kind of emotional memory?
Yeah, it's like an emotional memory. Okay. I would say so. I would say it's an emotional memory. So it wasn't until high school that I happened to be a part of this Greek festival where I was a dancer, and I had a friend that was a dancer, and then he was also friends with this friend group of girls. So he goes over and sits with them, which gives me an in to go talk to them. I ended up talking to him, and there was this one girl that I liked, and she responded positively to me. She saw that I had anime back when you had to pretend like you didn't like anime or hide it, because otherwise it was cringe. Right. I had an anime screensaver, and she connected with me because she was such a fan, and she complimented my phone. And
what anime was it?
It was this anime called Elfenlied.
Was she actually into that anime?
Yeah.
Was it like just anime in general? It doesn't matter.
She had seen but she had specifically seen that one too.
Okay.
Yeah, and for anybody that knows what that is, it's like this naked chick that's like got psychic powers, and she cuts everybody to pieces.
Dang, we're getting canceled on YouTube after that.
Yeah. We're gonna keep it. But so anyway, it's a lot like when Mewtwo breaks out of the lab. So anyway, she saw that and she was like, "Oh my god, you like anime." So she compliments my phone, and then I compliment her phone. I was like, "Oh, that's a nice phone you got there." I said, what are the digits attached to that phone?" And everybody's like, "Ooh, whatever." She actually gives it to me, which I don't believe. I'm like, "Oh my God, I can't believe that worked."
Yeah.
And so then we have a bit of a relationship for about 4 years where we're great friends, and I get to have a lot of positive, emotional, mental snapshots where I'm like, "Oh, maybe girls are for me." So then that breaks off traumatically. I won't go into the details, but she breaks up with me. And I was so depressed for like 13 months. And then after that time, the sheer amount of pain that I went through with that was a motivating factor to be like, fuck it, I have to replace this validation. Because at the time, that's what I was concerned with. I wanted to feel good about myself. And I was using the way that women responded to me as a proxy to make myself feel, to find out how I should allow myself to feel about myself. Everybody I'm sure can relate to that. Yeah, I know I can. So I was like, okay, well, let me just have as much sex as I can. So that was my new mission. Was when I was in college, I was trying to hook up as much as possible with women. And I was terrible at it. And I got rejected a ton. And as I stumbled around, I didn't give up hope because, one, I knew that nobody had to see my failures. Because if they had, then I would have been probably not brave enough to do it. But for the fact that I knew that I could keep it a secret, and I could be the only one to experience the rejections, I didn't mind. I knew that I just had to get one person to respond to me, and then I could potentially have something good like what I had before. So in pursuit of that, but not exactly a relationship this time, just in pursuit of sex essentially, I tried everything in the book to get my validation back that I was looking for.
Right.
And just by coincidence, I stumbled into the fact that authenticity and telling the truth just so happened to get good results and work more than anything. I was getting much further, and then I was able to hook up a lot from that process. So it was the fact that, so that was kind of the beginning of character development for myself as far as having good character. I never really had a malicious spirit, but before that, I never really thought about integrity. I was manipulative. I lied a lot. And that was the sort of the beginnings of, not really a big turning point, but not really a big turning point, but the beginnings of a turning point where I became somebody that I would be happy to have around me, right? So, but it didn't start off quite like that. I was just like, wow, if I tell the truth, that's getting me a lot farther than not telling the truth. There's something really powerful about it. So then I went on to experience. So I got a great degree of skill from repetition and practice and brute force, and that iterative process of what did I do right, what can I do better next time. And so I thought, you know what, at some point maybe I could monetize this or help other people with this, but I wasn't so passionate about it, and I let it go, and I just did my scientific studies for a long time.
Right.
So, but ultimately, after I experienced a lot more pain from my lack of understanding in long-term romantic relationships with women, they reached a critical point where I was so heartbroken and so upset about a particular girl that I had to transmute that into something. I couldn't just let it go and have it be nothing. So in particular, what I transmuted that into was helping one guy in particular, one coaching client, go from masturbating so much that he had to get surgery on his penis to being a 2-time national champion, girlfriend having, awesome individual that's a brother and friend of mine today.
Right.
And he's the man. Shout out to him. That to me was deeply spiritually fulfilling.
Yeah.
Because I was able to give somebody what I needed and what I was missing. So if people think about it, the context that we're in determine our behaviors and our reactions all the time. Like if you go to church, you might sit up straight, you might be like, oh, hi, how are you? You know, all that. And you might not cross your legs, like how my legs are crossed, and you're going to run these programs. So we're all in the matrix, whether we like it or not.
Right.
So we're under a hypnotic spell all the time, and if it's outside of our control, if it's outside of our awareness, it's outside of our control. And when it's inside of our awareness, it's inside of our control.
So wait, before you continue, so what do you mean by outside of awareness, outside of our control? Who's in control?
Well, if you're not aware of something, you're running like a computer programs with your subconscious mind, and you're just reacting to the environment instead of consciously responding the way that you want to.
Do you have any examples of that?
Yeah, so like let's say your girlfriend is yelling at you, and your body, your neurology might be trained to respond to the threat a certain way. You might be used to being defensive because you've seen it in your parents, because you've seen it in society. And so you might react by yelling back, or you might react by defending yourself. When in reality, you have the choice to, even though those feelings come up, to override them and respond the way that you want to. Then you can react deliberately. So we're always in trance. It's just a matter of what trance we're in at the given moment. And when you realize that you have control over the type of trance that you're in, then you now have then you can control the outcomes in your life. So you can think about it like, you know, when you get around a certain group of friends and you automatically notice yourself sounding like them to fit in, or you end up talking to your mother and you end up in an argument with her because she just knows how to press your buttons like nobody else does.
Right.
These are things that we reflect on as if we weren't in control later and be like, why did I do that? Why did I have another argument with my mom? So that can be thought of as hypnosis. That's being in the matrix. Anything that robs you of your own agency to respond and react the way that you want to. So classical hypnotherapy, hypnosis, is a means of getting conscious control over your subconscious mind so that you can reprogram, like a computer, your identity, including your confidence, for it to be the way that you want it to be, instead of the way that the rest of reality has built up to this point.
So it's just, is it like, would it be like if I'm used to being, so let's say in that friend group, they're used to hearing me talk a certain way, right? Let's say this is a football locker room. Everybody knows me from the football team. They know that I usually speak a certain way, and sometimes I find myself going, well, why am I even talking like that? I don't talk like that when I'm around my mom or my brother or at church, right? And you're like, why am I even talking like that? And so there's this kind of pressure, whether real or imagined, that I'm under, and I fold to the pressure and start sounding like how all my other teammates may be sounding. I would be under their trance, or the trance of the football lingo, or locker room lingo. Or if it's a case where at church where I'm like, oh, well, and, smiling when I don't usually, so why am I talking like that? And, our Thanksgiving, you're like, hey, babe, auntie, you don't even really like your aunt like that. Like, that would be states where I would want to do something different than I'm doing if I really had agency, but I'm doing something other than what I genuinely want to do. And so I would be like almost like a puppet to my environment. And so is that what trance is? Okay.
Yeah, and whenever anybody who's ever tried to meditate or do something like that, it's like being the one who's driving the car and being the one with an old school style map to try to navigate at the same time. And you're like looking at the map, and then you're trying to drive, and then you're looking at the map, and you just lost your place because you had to finish on the road. It's a lot like looking left and looking right at the same time. It's very difficult, if not impossible. So the benefit of having somebody who knows how to guide you through the hypnotic process is that hypnotic process is a tool that can be used to allow you to regain mastery and control, to regain your freedom by having your conscious mind be in control over your subconscious mind and not having your subconscious mind running you outside of your awareness.
And would that subconscious mind be the same as the environment?
A lot of times there's no difference because the memories and the little infinitely small events that are from the environment get encoded into your subconscious mind.
So it's like I'm reacting, just like we talked about this.
Right.
Like if if the subconscious mind reacts,
Mm-hmm.
right, unknowingly, and I get in an argument with my mom, you could argue my mom is the environment.
Yes, that's a perfect example. Another example. Yeah, that's a perfect example. The way I think about it is, imagine you're a guy who's only had, and I've been here, who's only had negative experiences with women.
Mm-hmm.
The environment has programmed you to make meaning. Our brains are good at making meaning.
Mm-hmm.
So the environment has programmed you to make meaning with those bad references and think, okay, women aren't for me as a matter of my identity. I'm just not good with women.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you approach women and when you interact and speak with them, you cannot help but have the light that you're shining through your body, for example, as just a metaphor, go through a prism or like a filter of that identity, which is the women aren't good for me. And then she can't help but react to you in the way that is proportionate, equal and opposite reaction to what you're giving her, which is, I'm not good enough. So when in fact, if there's nothing in the rules of reality that say that this guy had to have had that outcome with that woman.
Right.
If he had been in a different state, a different feeling state about himself, then when he approached her, it would have gone entirely differently.
Mm-hmm.
So the active component of undergoing a deliberate hypnotic experience to an end,
mm-hmm.
the active, like, so for the people that get hypnosis because they want to change their identity,
mm-hmm.
they're able to, in spite of what their past has been, develop the same kind of feeling state that somebody with good experiences would have had. And then she can't not react differently to him.
Right.
Because now he's giving off the same aura, if you will, as somebody who's been very successful with women.
And it's like bypasses that without them having to do all that work.
Yes.
And all that trial and error. So it sounds like even when a guy is confident, he becomes the environment for the woman and she reacts to him differently. So she goes into trance, and when she's in a confident environment, meaning the man's presence, she responds in a positive manner because she goes into hypnosis. So it's almost like his state of hypnosis and identity, the woman reflects whether that and shows up in a different identity based upon whether he's confident or lacking confidence.
Yeah, exactly. And the only thing I would say for the audience is that it's not like you're trying to put somebody under a spell. It's not like you're trying to trick somebody. This process is happening all the time, whether you like it or not. So you're constantly radiating this energy,
right?
And then the women are responding to you, and it can't not happen. So when you're radiating an energy from which, and their women are extremely sharp, calibrated creatures where they can sense your energy, they can sense your feelings. Even if you don't think they can, if you're feeling something inside, it's been my experience that they know that I'm feeling something, that they know that I'm off. They can tell when I'm triggered.
Right.
So if you're coming from a place of scarcity or fear, which is normal, if you've had bad experiences, then they're going to pick up on that and treat you the way that scientifically you treat somebody in that situation.
Right.
But if you've transformed the inner feeling state, that's just why people use alcohol sometimes. They're like, oh, alcohol makes me confident. Because it gives you a different feeling about yourself, because you're less aware temporarily. But this isn't about making you less aware. This is about a permanent baseline increase.
Oh, it's permanent.
Well, it can be permanent or it can be temporary, depending. So the idea is that kind of like a computer, you're making changes in the way that you think about yourself. The idea is that you're making a fundamental change to the way that you think about yourself. So of course something else could override it later, or it could not. It just depends on the way that you decide to live out the rest of your life.
So it's not like you implant this chip into somebody's brain, or let's say it's me. Let's say I wanted more confidence around public speaking. It's not like you put the confidence in stuff like, okay, Julian hypnotized me to bypass my old identity where I go in a public speaking environment and I capitulate and I lose confidence and I start reacting and I'm under trance. I'm not enough. And all these programmings start to flare up. It's not as if it's like, okay, all I need to do is go to him, Julian, have him install the confidence public speaking thing, and then I can go around do all kinds of tomfoolery and it will never go away. It's like, it will help me dramatically and I still keep my autonomy so I can re-ruin my own progress from the hypnosis, or I can make it stronger.
Of course. So the idea behind it too is that once you give somebody, it's really also about training them to go through the process of having, it's another way of training them to go through the process of having conscious control over their subconscious mind. And when that happens, they can start to accumulate references and positive, successful experiences, which then snowball. So you don't need to keep getting hypnotized.
I got you.
It's a way to shortcut on the front end a lot of the work and effort that you would have to do to approach like 100 girls before you have a good experience and go through the pain of that, to instead approach one or two feeling from a good state, have a good reaction, and then now you have that positive reference and you can ride that momentum.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
That's really powerful. That's almost, at risk of using the magic pill solution style, but like, you've been on both sides, right? You've experienced hypnosis and you've gone through hundreds of women and rejection and things of that nature. So it's not as if you're speaking, oftentimes you can tell when a man lacks the lived experience of the word he speaks. And why I was willing to expose the audience to your particular skill set. It's not just because I know you're an amazing hypnotist. It's also because my audience and, being a part of Relationship and the company of rebuilding a family one man at a time, it's critical for the guys here to understand that there's a way beyond just what they've been exposed to, beyond just 100 dating app swipes, beyond just embarrassment, because that's daunting. I mean, Lord knows how we did that, but there's an alternative way that exists that doesn't necessarily rob you of your autonomy, but it speeds up or you could say it increases the likelihood that the next woman you approach, the next woman you interact with, will be surrounded by the aura of a confident man, or at least a lot more confident version of yourself than if you had to approach 60 women, get rejected, and then like crack the code at one point and then start.
Yeah, because it's like this. It's like, have you ever noticed that if you're feeling really bad about yourself, it's difficult to accomplish things socially? But if you're feeling really good about yourself, it's easy to accomplish things socially. It's just a way to get to feeling really good about yourself in your mind so that you can feel good when you want to. And that is what has the effect. It's not the magic of the hypnosis. It's just a tool to get to that feeling good about yourself, so that just like, well, I don't know what I just said, but it's like
and what I saw was like, you're about to give a super raunchy example, and you're like, wait a minute, that's not.
No, that's what it looked like.
And then you're like, short circuit.
Yeah. No, but it's basically like, it's like, have you ever noticed that in a social situation, when you're feeling bad about yourself, it's hard to get those good social outcomes, but if you're feeling great about yourself, it's easy? It's just a way to feel really great about yourself. Because a lot of times the environment dictates how we feel about ourselves. And why shouldn't it? Because if we're facing reality, in a lot of sense, it's like, well, it's like this. It's like, a lot of times the environment is a lot of times we go through our day just feeling whatever kind of way because of what happens to us on the outside. So this is just a tool. It's nothing special, really. It's just a tool to get control over how you feel.
Even though the environment... So it's almost like, instead of being under the trance of the environment, you get to put yourself under your own trance.
Under the trance that you want to, exactly.
Okay.
And then you still have to do all the positive work that anybody who wants the result would get.
Right.
But you're gaining the asset that they have from their memory of their victory without having had all the victories. So there's so much less resistance to being successful because you're not bogged down by feelings of inadequacy, by a feeling state that doesn't match the result that you want. So hypnosis is a way to bridge that gap.
And then that's what we call confidence.
Yes.
That state of that emotional state. I don't think people think of confidence as an emotional state, but it is. It's the reputation one has with himself and success, right, in any given domain. So a man may have a lot of confidence when it comes to, let's even use within the domain of women. You said this. I had no confidence approaching women, and I got a lot of confidence because you learned how to get sex quickly and with gorgeous women. And then even in the domain of women, the confidence would slow down when it comes to the maintenance of high quality long-term relationships, even though the confidence didn't disappear when it comes to getting sex immediately. And so even within the dimension of just, you could say, skills with women, there were different areas of just that thing where your confidence was high and your confidence wasn't as high. Mm-hmm. And if we just break it down to what the difference is what you just said. The memories I have when it comes to, have I done this a million times before? Yes. Right. So I feel and expect a positive outcome. Mm-hmm. Right, a relationship with myself when it comes to approaching this beautiful woman, and then the positive memories I have of being able to attract a woman like that in the past is high. So I feel great. I feel like this will work. And so as you approach her, the feelings within her, she goes into that trance-like state of like, oh, I like this guy. This guy's confident. This guy's fun. This guy's sexy. Rather than like, oh, no. Like in the beginning, before we had all those mm-hmm. positive experiences. And so it's like, okay, well, if that's the case, then confidence is just how we feel about ourselves. The expectancy we have about ourselves in relation to whatever endeavor we're going to do. And so when I think about it, I'm like, okay, let's say I have a lot of confidence when it comes to speaking or doing presentations at my job. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to happy hour and going to the bar mm-hmm. and speaking to a beautiful, it's like you crumble internally, and it's the most awkward, depressing thing anyone has ever seen. It's like, oh, if confidence is a feeling about myself, then he just needs to install an identity in me through hypnosis that when I get in this context, the confidence is the same as when I'm in the context at work. Mm-hmm.
And practically speaking, that's one of the things that makes it easier. When it's not necessary, but it's even more powerful and even easier to bypass that resistance. When you have something that you feel good about, when you have some memory of some kind of victory, mm-hmm. you can then remember what that feels like. Notice what that feels like, and then we can do the work in the hypnosis to connect that to the new thing where you want it to be.
So, in some weird sense, hypnosis is taking a person out of cultural hypnosis or environmental hypnosis. So, from my understanding, is like every action we do, something is causing us to do the action. It's either our will and desires and whatever, or it's the influence of the environmental will. And so it's almost this dance between, okay, when I go into this environment, who's governing my actions? Who's influencing my actions? Me or the environment? So if I see a beautiful woman and I want to speak with her, but I don't do it, that can't be my independent will. So what am I a puppet to? I can feel myself wanting to speak with her, so why won't I? And so hypnosis almost like whatever that thing that causes you to not go over there, or that causes you to look at yourself. It could be, a popular word these days is trauma. It could be like past emotional, you said the reference experience. I could have negative emotional reference experiences. And that's what I'm a puppet to. And so hypnosis almost seems like things that I'm a puppet to, like the hypnotist comes in and just clips the strings, and you're like, and then puts me on new strings that I decide. So it's like, okay, what strings do you want to be put on? Well, I want to speak loudly, have my chest out. I don't want to be afraid of seeing, if I see a beautiful, I want to just step to her. I want to have more courage to tell my wife no. Like I get to decide the strings, because I was a string to whatever the hell I was a puppet to. You're like, okay, well, let's sever these strings, and okay, you want confidence, and then it's almost like a reinstallation of a new identity, and then I break free from the control of the environment, at least a little bit less, if not a lot less. And now it's like, oh man, when I used to be in this environment, I used to feel anxious. I used to not speak up for myself. I used to allow myself to be a doormat because I was so fearful of the opinion of others or losing the approval of people I care about. But now that I've severed those puppet strings, or severed most of them, it's almost this feeling of liberation. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I'm going to actually act based upon my independent will. And I guess that is what the Matrix is about. It's about no longer being the environmental puppet. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, I love the part that you mentioned about what's dictating my outcomes. Is it the will of the environment, or is it my own will? And it's about what was the thing that you used when you were talking about your will or someone else's will?
What, the puppet?
Yeah, I love the puppet. That was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
The before that, you were just saying something like, my actions. Was it your action? The way?
What was it exactly? I was saying that you're like, if I'm moving, if I'm anywhere, and I'm like, I want to do this, but I won't do it, then something must be governing my actions.
Yes, what's governing your actions? That's it. Yeah. In particular, I love the way you mentioned. I love the way you mentioned that it's either the environment governing your actions, or it's your own will governing your actions. So what I do for my clients is I give them the keys to their own subconscious mind, so that their will is what's governing their actions, not what they inherited by luck from the environment.
Whoa. That gave me a whole new paradigm on this. It's like regaining sovereignty. One of the things that, as you know, I emphasize is a man having sovereignty. And it's interesting because sovereignty, because I was looking for what, masculinity is often used. I wouldn't say it's used loosely, it's just a term that doesn't have a very, very strict definition, whereas sovereignty does. But if you think about everything that people associate with masculinity, they all fall under sovereignty, right? The governance of oneself, so discipline, right? Backbone, boundary, all these things are sovereignty, which is I move to my own will, not the will of my environment. And so when I'm hearing that, I'm like, oh, hypnosis and sovereignty are actually in alignment. But sovereignty is almost like being hypnotized by your own will rather than being hypnotized by the will of the political systems, by the ads, by random YouTube guy, But, people just throwing things out there and say, this is the truth. You should believe this. And then if you allow that to come in and you don't critically assess it, and you're like, oh, well, I now think all the outcomes of my life is a result of Donald Trump, the modern woman, what's another popular one? Whatever, right? The common environmental things. And I'm cooked. I'm a cooked guy. I just happened to be born in, or be an adult in 2025, and I happen to just be a cooked guy. And the environment told me so. And there's nothing I can do. And so what I love about what you were saying is that you're saying that, one, not only can you speed up a person's confidence development, but you're quite literally freeing them from the puppet strings of what people have been telling them they had to be their whole life.
Well, they're really freeing themselves. It's more that it's kind of like doing surgery for somebody, where hypnosis can be used kind of like a scalpel as a tool to save somebody's life or to like gouge somebody in the eyeball. A lot of times what's happening in society is people have bad intentions for somebody, or they want anything for them other than what they want for themselves. And so the key here is doing the will of the person. The work is entirely, all of the hypnosis work from the school that I learned it from is entirely self-referential, which is you're constantly using the other person's will and imagination in the process, where you're asking them questions, where you're having them imagine things along certain dimensions and follow certain processes. But all of the things that they engage with in their own mind are confidential, private. I never ask what they are. And they're according to their standards and according to their definitions, not mine or anybody else's.
So you're not like some savior. You're using a skill set, a scientific skill set, as you said, like like psychological surgery. And you go in there and like, okay, there's a tumor here called your trauma from your childhood. There's a tumor here from, and you're like, okay, let's get that out of there. And then what do you want to install? You want to, okay. And that's based upon what they tell you they want installed.
Yeah, it's kind of like if they're a knight, they have to fight the dragon. But I'm like a wizard, like casting spells, helping them do what they need to do to that end, to get it done the way that they want to get it done.
Okay, I like this. It's it ties in, sovereignty and hypnosis tied in. You know, we've never really had this discussion to this level. Obviously, I know you're, you know, I'd always tease you. I'm like, you're the hypnotist god of just, but you know, really sitting down and uncovering the science of it, because you know the human mind, human behaviors is my study. So, yeah. Is there anything practical that we could leave the audience with? You know, if a guy is, you know, since it's a confidence conversation, if a guy is struggling with women and he's like, okay, well, like, how do I apply this in a real situation? Girl across the street, what do I do?
Well, here's one that you could do without hypnosis. Let's say you see that girl and you start to get those feelings and you're like, oh shit. And you're like, okay, just take a deep breath and then remember a time that you were absolutely victorious. It doesn't matter what it was in, but anything that gave you that feeling of victory. A time that you wanted something, you made a plan, you stuck to it, and then you followed through and you got that result. Take a second to stand the way you stood. Imagine smelling and tasting whatever you smelled and taste. See what you see. And then as soon as you notice those feelings flooding your body, those same feelings that you had then, boom, go over and do the approach then.
Okay, perfect. Do you have any resources or anything that they could tap into? Yeah,
if you want, I also have an audio on the channel that you can follow along with. A pre-recorded hypnosis you can listen to for improving confidence.
Okay, perfect. And I'll link that in the description below. But yeah, with that, appreciate you, my guy, for coming on. This was an amazing conversation. And guys, we will be back with more hypnosis sovereignty talk. But if you enjoyed, hit the like button down below, subscribe, and remember to check out Julian's channel if you want that what is it, Hypnosis for Confidence?
The channel or the
the video.
Yeah, it'll be confidence. It'll be Hypnosis for Confidence.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Hypnosis for Confidence. So check that out, and I'll see you guys in the next one.